handcuffs snapped shut with a sound like a breaking bone. On the quiet roadside in Crestwood, Missouri, Officer Chad Fuller allowed himself a smirk. He had her now, a lone black woman in a tailored suit with a smart mouth and an ID that was a pathetic joke. He was about to teach her a lesson in respect, a lesson some people only learn the hard way. The stop had been easy. He'd spotted the charcoal-colored sedan near Westwood Drive in 3rd Street, a single taillight out. It was the perfect excuse to flex his authority, the part of the job he lived for. He'd approached the driver's side, and the window lowered just enough to be an insult. Inside, a woman in her late 30s sat with unnerving stillness, her hair in perfect cornrows, her eyes cool and steady. The silence in the car felt like a challenge. "License and registration," he'd barked, skipping the pleasantries. She handed over a wallet with a smooth, practiced motion. He purposely snatched it from her grasp. "What's your name?" he demanded, holding the wallet without opening it. "Imani Kincaid." He grunted and finally flipped it open. Her face, a federal seal, and a string of codes he didn't recognize. Right, he thought. Probably a $50 novelty print from the internet. He hated when they tried to act like they were somebody. "Is this supposed to be funny?" he asked, his voice dripping with contempt. "It's a valid government credential, officer," she replied, her tone infuriatingly calm. "What are you, CIA, FBI?" he sneered, leaning in. "People with real authority aren't afraid to say who they work for." "I'm not authorized to disclose my agency affiliation," she stated flatly. "So it's a fake," Fuller declared, his voice rising. "And you know presenting a fraudulent government ID is a felony charge. A big one. The credential is not fraudulent." Her absolute composure was a direct act of defiance. He stomped back to his patrol car, his mind set. He was going to put her in her place. "Dispatch requesting backup," he said into his radio. "I've got a non-compliant female in a charcoal sedan presenting a fake federal ID." Minutes later, a second cruiser arrived with 2 rookies who looked like they still attended high school proms. With his audience assembled, Fuller's confidence surged. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle," he commanded. Imani Kincaid opened the door without a word. As she stood, one of the rookies approached nervously. "For officer safety, I need to place you in restraints until we can confirm who you are," he stammered. "Officer," Imani's voice dropped, edged with steel, "I seriously suggest you rethink that." "Save it for the judge," Fuller snapped. As onlookers on the sidewalk began recording with their phones, Imani simply turned and offered her wrists. The movement of her blazer exposed a small, flesh-colored earpiece, but Fuller dismissed it as part of her costume. He was too fixated on her maddening calm to notice her smartwatch tilt, or the single word she breathed into it just as the cold metal locked around her wrists. "Where are you going in such a hurry?" Fuller asked, stepping into her personal space. "Home. And where's that?" "You already know I can't tell you that," she said, her eyes meeting his. "You have everything you need," she added. "You're just choosing not to see it." The condescension in her voice made his blood boil. He grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, any update on that ID?" "Negative, Chad," the radio crackled. "Nothing's coming up in the system." "Pat her down," Fuller ordered the rookie. As the young officer reached for her, Imani spoke, her voice cutting through the evening air. "I wouldn't touch me if I were you." The rookie froze. "Is that a threat?" "No," she said. "It's a professional courtesy." Just then, tires screamed on the pavement. 2 black SUVs, no lights, no sirens, slammed to a stop down the street. 4 men in dark tactical gear emerged, moving with the terrifying precision of a predator. The leader marched directly toward Fuller, his face a mask of cold fury. He flashed an ID. "FBI hostage rescue team," the man growled, his voice low and dangerous. "That woman is a federal agent under our protection. Take the cuffs off her, right now." A surge of indignant rage flared in Fuller's chest. "I don't care who you are. This woman is in my custody until her identity is verified." The FBI agent got inches from his face, his voice a low snarl. "Officer, you are about to obstruct a matter of national security. You have 5 seconds to unlock those cuffs before you throw your entire career in the trash." Another agent flanked them, leaned in, and whispered a single sentence to the rookie holding the key. The young cop's face turned the color of ash. His shoulders sagged as if the words themselves had broken something inside him, and he stared at Fuller with a look of pure terror. This wasn't a joke. This was real. The lead agent turned his attention to Imani. "Agent Kincaid, are you secure?" She gave a sharp, affirmative nod. He then produced a rugged scanning device, holding it over the ID Fuller was still clutching. A green light swept across the card, followed by a piercing beep. "Credentials confirmed," the agent announced. Fuller's brain stalled. "What? What agency is she?" he stammered. The agent shot him a look of utter disgust. "She works for people who don't have name tags, officer. Now stand down." Though still in cuffs, Imani's expression was unchanged, the steady calm of someone who had prepared for this exact type of disaster. At a silent nod from the team leader, the terrified rookie fumbled with the key, his hands shaking so badly it took 2 tries to unlock the restraints. Imani Kincaid simply flexed her fingers, rolling her wrists as if shaking off a minor annoyance. Fuller felt a wave of dizziness. "You can't just come here and take over my stop," he blurted out, the words sounding pathetic even to his own ears. "Officer Fuller," the lead agent's voice dropped, becoming low and menacing. "Your stop nearly blew a year-long deep-cover operation to hell. You risked a national security asset and the lives of her team over a burned-out taillight." At that exact moment, Fuller's own radio crackled to life. Chad, hold on. We're getting a priority 1 directive from a secure federal channel. Stand by." Too late. Agent Kincaid strode past the local cops as if they were traffic cones and began a quiet, rapid-fire debrief with her team. She was already back on the job. "Did anyone touch her vehicle?" the agent asked. "Only me," Fuller mumbled, his throat dry. "Stay away from it." One of the other agents opened the sedan's trunk, revealing not a spare tire, but a hardened Pelican case filled with a complex array of sealed electronics. "What the hell is that?" Fuller demanded. "Classified," Kincaid replied without looking at him. "Everything is classified with you people," he yelled in frustration. She finally stopped and turned, her gaze pinning him in place. "Yes, it is. Because sometimes the threat is coming from the people who are supposed to be watching your back." Before Fuller could process the accusation, her eyes scanned the crowd of onlookers and locked onto a man in a baseball cap standing near the back. He wasn't recording. He was observing. "Target acquired," she whispered into her watch. The HRT agents moved instantly. The man in the cap spun and sprinted into a dark alleyway. An agent was on his heels in a flash. "Who was that?" Fuller yelled. "The reason I was on this street tonight," Kincaid answered. A single muffled thump echoed from the alley. Seconds later, the agent returned, dragging the man in restraints. "He's carrying a tracker, not a listening device," the agent confirmed. Kincaid's eyes narrowed. The stop wasn't a coincidence. Her gaze flicked from the stunned rookie to the police radio on his belt. The implication hung in the air, thick and poisonous. The Crestwood Precinct had a mole. An hour later, Agent Kincaid walked into the Crestwood Precinct on Harrisburg Pike with an authority that made the building feel like it was hers. Fuller found her in the main hallway as she exited the server room, a room she had accessed with her own clearance. "You can't just barge in here and take over," he said, his voice choked with humiliation. "I really don't have time to debate jurisdiction with you, officer. I have a right to know what's going on." Agent Kincaid stopped and leveled a gaze at him that felt like a physical blow. "You have a right to nothing. You nearly torpedoed a federal mission tonight for one simple reason." She took a step closer. "When you saw my credentials, you didn't see a federal agent. You saw a black woman you thought you could push around. Your prejudice almost got federal agents killed. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to clean up your mess and find the leak you allowed to operate." Just then, another officer rounded the corner. It was Sergeant Vince Riley, a stocky man with a shaved head and a uniform that was suspiciously crisp for the late shift. His eyes found Kincaid and turned to ice. "Well, I'll be damned," Riley sneered. "The ghost of Langley itself decides to grace us with her presence?" Fuller stared between them. "You know each other?" "He was attached to my unit in Amman," Kincaid said, her voice devoid of emotion. "Right before he disappeared during an operation, taking a secure sat phone with him." "Is that how you're telling it?" Riley took a menacing step forward. "Because the version I remember involves you leaving 3 agents behind in a compromised safe house. What's the matter? Here to play the hero in my precinct?" "I'm not playing," Kincaid said. She pulled a small digital recorder from her blazer and hit a button. Riley's own voice, tinny and distorted, filled the hall. She'll be passing the Westwood Drive checkpoint around 9:15 p.m. It's her standard approach. You'll get a clean shot. Fuller's jaw went slack. I picked up your transmission this morning, Vince, Kincaid said, her voice like flint. You've been selling intel for months. You gave them my location tonight, hoping they would finish the job you couldn't do in Jordan. Riley didn't waste time on denials. He lunged, but Fuller, the truth finally hitting him, moved faster. He tackled Riley, slamming him against the wall as other officers swarmed in. Through the chaos, Agent Kincaid walked up to the struggling traitor. Sergeant Vince Riley, she announced, her voice cutting through the noise. You're under arrest for treason. As they dragged him away, she turned to the stunned Fuller. He was just the leak, not the source. Let's go. She led him to the main bullpen and pulled up a city schematic on a monitor. Your partner Riley was a pawn used by Director Alden Croft, she stated as fact. Croft used a contractor, Axiom Tactical, to build security holes across the city. The stop tonight was bait, a distraction designed by Croft to have me tied up by a local officer he knew was prone to overreacting. She paused, letting the insult land. All to cover the real prize, transferring a case of CIA personnel names to a courier codenamed Nighthawk. Fuller was speechless. How do you know this? Kincaid glanced at her watch. Because the transfer is happening now, in a tunnel under Quarry Lane. You started this. You're going to witness how it ends. In the damp tunnel, they found them. The courier, Nighthawk, held a silver case. Beside him, holding a pistol, was Alden Croft. You're early, Agent, Nighthawk said. And you're sloppy, Kincaid shot back. Give me the case. You've lost, Kincaid, Croft declared. You're protecting a dead system. He's leaking the identities of active field agents, Kincaid said, speaking directly to the courier. He didn't tell you that, did he? That case isn't data, it's a list of names. You think they'll let the man who carried their death warrants just walk away? She saw the doubt in Nighthawk's eyes. I want the case, she repeated, or the unedited video of you meeting your contact in the alley tonight goes public. Your face, your car, everything. She's bluffing, Lang tensed. No, Nighthawk said quietly. She's not. In one explosive move, Nighthawk slammed the heavy case into Croft's chest. Croft crumpled, the gun clattering on the concrete. Kincaid lunged, securing the case and kicking the weapon away as a stunned Fuller covered the courier. It was over. 2 hours later, the Crestwood Precinct was gripped by a cold silence. In the bullpen stood a stone-faced deputy director from the CIA, flanked by 2 HRT agents. Agent Kincaid observed from the side. Officer Chad Fuller stood before them, stripped of his jacket, his face pale. Officer Fuller, the deputy director began, his voice dangerously quiet. Your actions tonight, driven by gross incompetence and prejudice, endangered a critical national security operation. You are a disgrace to your badge. He nodded to an agent. Your weapon, officer. Fuller numbly unbuckled his holster and handed it over. Your badge. His hands trembled as he unclipped it from his belt. He was no longer a cop. He was just a man ruined by his own hate. The director pushed a single paper across the desk. A resignation form. Sign it, he commanded, or we will prosecute you as a co-conspirator to treason. Your choice. With a shaking hand, Keith Fuller picked up the pen. He didn't look at Agent Kincaid, but he could feel her eyes on him, feel the crushing weight of his failure. He signed his name, the scratching of the pen the only sound in the room. Justice, he now understood, didn't always come from the barrel of a gun. Sometimes it came from a quiet, unshakable woman in a business suit who simply let you drown in the consequences of your own poison.